It is now 1:09 p.m. and before us this afternoon we have the Public Defender's Office here to answer any questions that the members have in regards to their requests as well as the governor's proposal. And so we've already established quorum earlier this morning, but just to introduce the members that are present with us this afternoon to the Public Defender's Office. I'll start off with my far left. We have Representative Leila Staffler, Chairwoman for Health and Education. To her right, Representative Selena Babauta, the Chairwoman for JGO. I am Donald Magnolia, the Chair for Ways and Means, and with me up here is the Vice Chair, Representative Ivan Blanco. To my immediate right, we have Representative Sheila Babauta, Chairwoman for Natural Resources. To her right, Representative Vicente Camacho, Chairman for Federal Foreign Affairs. Representative Richard Lizama, Chairman for PUTC. And joining us via Teams is Representative Christina Sablan, Chairwoman for Health and Welfare. Assisting the committee today, we have our fiscal analyst present, Mr. T.G. Rabago, our legal counsel, Joe Tyrone, our IT, Mr. Jonathan Diaz, and our Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Dennis Regis. All right, members, at the request of the members, we have invited the Public Defender's Office to come before the committee to discuss their submission as well as the governor's proposal. The submission back in April indicated that the public defender is requesting for $753,465 for next fiscal year, based on the governor's submission back in April. Under the general fund, the governor had proposed $379,000. Under the ARPA, $181,000, for a total of about $561,000. This would indicates a shortfall of roughly $192,000. While we analyze the current revision, which was submitted last Friday, we will be identifying at our next meeting. Hopefully we will have time to see whether that figure has changed since the April 1 submission. But for now, before we proceed with any questions, I would like to hand the floor over to Public Defender Hardick if he has any opening statements for the committee.
To push this? Okay, there you go. Thanks. I would just agree with you that there is a shortfall, and that's troubling to us. Obviously, we do have some money budgeted from the ARPA funds, but again, the totals do come up short, and so that's our concern. I think we agreed that the total is about 135 short. And that's obviously troubling to us. We do really operate on a shoestring budget. Ideally, we would double that budget and we'd spend it all legitimately. But we are just operating at a minimum, and we do need that money. The shortfall, especially as the personnel, I'd point out, roughly in the personnel area, it comes to about $57,000, which I think in a global sense is not a lot of money, but we really do need that money. And some of that money would go towards salary increases, which seems like a luxury, but it's actually not, because what happens in our office is we end up recruiting from off island. Sometimes we spend as much as $35,000 in repatriation, which we have to, it's contractually obligated. And if we're bringing in a family in order to hire one person, we could spend that much or more. That would be on a biannual basis. if we can increase a salary in the neighborhood of $8,000 to $10,000, we can save $35,000. So in a cost benefit analysis, we actually end up saving money. We also end up with an issue where we're able to do it one year and not another. Now we have colleagues doing the same job, one actually maybe more experienced and doing a fine job, but is actually getting paid less because the fiscal restraints when that contract comes due can't be met. So now we're sending one of our best employees back to the States for the sake of someone in the neighborhood of $8,000, and we're spending another 15 to bring someone else in, knowing that that person they're bringing in, we're going to have to down the road spend another maybe 15 to get them back, send them back. And ironically, the person who we denied a salary to now is going to cost us more than that salary increase in order to return to the U.S. And this is a reoccurring problem. And I think with modest, and these are modest salary increases, we could at least, if not overcome the problem, at least cause the problem to recur less frequently. Contracts, again, which are issued by and approved by the Attorney General's office, not us, and the governor's office, they're 2-year contracts. So if we can get some of those 2-year people to stay for 3 or 4, we could cut down on the recruitment costs. And if you look at the balancing act that would cause, actually save us some money. So I think that's more than justified. The other shortfall is in all others, which I think was operating costs. And that, according to the proposals by the governor, and if we add in the AR, I'm sorry, the ARPA money, we still come up about $135,000 short. I'm not sure what I can say about that, but every line I think is justifiable. We operated less under the current fiscal year than we requested. And one of the ways we ended up doing that was we had to actually borrow money from other agencies, from the governor's office through the SAA. So even though our budget is lower, our expenses were not. So we did end up spending that money. And there's some of the costs that appear, I think, to a lot of people would look like extravagant, is things like the Westlaw, where we're spending thousands of dollars to an online research company, but there is no other way to do it in the modern world. That's just how it has to be done. Any agency with lawyers, any private law firm, they all have to do it this way. There's no law library at all. And even when there was one 5 years ago, it was so out of date, it really wasn't of any value. And so that's a needed expense that we just can't live without. I would just point that out as, because I think if I don't know the number, it's like $1,000 a month or something.
For Westlaw?
Yeah.
$2,034.84.
It's all right, $2,000 a month. That kind of takes me back, to tell you the honest truth. It really throws me, but it's a lot of money. But there's just no other way around it. That's just part of what it takes, and everything else, I think. If there's questions, I'd be glad to answer them, but I don't want to waste your time going line by line and justifying what was already in writing. But I think everything is justifiable, and if there's questions, we, welcome them.
Thank you for that, BD Hardig. So just to clarify, the 35,000 that you brought up in regards to repatriation, that is the contract in where you would have to recruit and send them back at the end of a contract?
Right, and that number in particular is one of our attorneys whose contract is coming up, will expire this year. We recruited a family, and that's why that one is so high. Normally it's a fair bit less, but 10,000 is more or less average. Actually, more than that, because you've got the one coming and the one going. So if you put them together, you're well over $10,000 every time there's that type of situation.
All right, so this request for repatriation, which line item did you request that under?
Where is
Under all? The only thing for 35,000 that I see is under your all others. Sorry,
Where did we have?
advertising.
Okay, 62090, recruitment and repatriation.
I guess the line number is 6290.
Recruitment and repatriation.
Recruitment. 62090.
35.
Oh, 626 under personnel training costs.
No, it's 62090.
Under the public art,
There's a zero on there.
Yeah, there wasn't anything requested under.
I think it was probably taken out
By who?
because we requested it. It's here.
Yeah, we requested it. It could have been eliminated by the governor.
Well, the
Yeah, I think we took it out.
department's request, whether it was taken out later on, it would have indicated that on your request. But with that said,
We've
your
got
total.
I'm sorry. That's what we submitted, right?
Yeah.
We've got it in ours. I'm not sure why it's not in yours. Oh.
Yeah.
No, but any department request should have indicated all.
Under request.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess our numbers are not matching up. So for personnel, we're actually showing a deficit of about 67,000 as opposed to the 50 some that was mentioned. You had requested a total of 523. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And the proposed general fund and ARPA came out to 455,000.
Yes.
So that's a difference of about 67,000. And then, what did you have requests on your?
I think we're requesting an additional FTE, and what I'm talking about now is in the absence of that being granted, and I think the governor also was
Take that out. Yeah.
not in favor of the additional FTE.
Okay. Well, currently it's showing that you have 8.
Yes,
FTEs.
we're
Is that
asking.
still the same?
Yeah.
Yes, we're
And you
asking
need-
for a 9th.
A 9th, and that would be an assistant public defender.
No, that would be a support staff. Currently, we have 3 support staff members: office manager.
It's supposed to be legal
It would
assistant.
be a legal assistant and IT, legal assistant / IT manager, a combo.
And how many assistant PD do you have right now?
Right now, we have 4
4. What is the average pay for an assistant PD?
in our office.
Yes.
The average is about 60,000.
And you are requesting an additional 8 to 10 in increase for each.
Increase, not for each, for 2.
For 2. On average, how many times would you, is this something that you have right now? How many times would you say that the PD would have to conflict out?
Oh, on 2 or 3% of the time, maybe? I'm trying to think now, 10, 15. Could be as high as 4%, I think. If you're counting traffic cases, then the number drops way down, maybe 2%, maybe less.
All right, thank you for that. And just one last question before I open up to the members. This request, the initial request for 753,000, which you submitted back prior to the April submission, I would have to assume it's based on the austerity levels. But with the ARPA funds now coming in, do you have a bottom line figure for next fiscal year?
Well, we're including so if we subtract out the ARPA and what the governor's proposed, that's where I come up with the 57 and the 135 short. I'm factoring in the ARPA.
57 for personnel.
Yes,
And
right, that's exclusive of should there be a new FTE.
so with the new FTE, how much more would you need?
It's 57 plus what did we say? 30?
190.
No, it can't be 119. It would be, how much is the new FTE?
192.
No.
Because
Oh,
he's
two together?
135 plus 50, 57.
No,
So
how much is it short? That's the total. How much is the new FTE? Just
28,000.
90,000.
Additional. All right, thank you. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to the members, and I recognize for the first round, Representative Selena Bavalta.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon.
You said the average salary in the public defender's office is about 60,000.
For the attorneys.
Is that also applicable to the new attorney that's coming in?
There is no new attorney coming in right now.
You said you were, oh, you're
I'm trying to
recruiting in the
avoid that.
process. Oh,
No, we're trying to avoid, that would come up in
Okay,
that would
hire
come up,
locally, is that?
pardon me?
Hire locally for the one that you're going to lose?
We don't have, no, we're losing her in the spring.
Yes.
So
Okay.
nothing's been done yet. That would be during fiscal year 2021.
Okay. From what we're seeing with the revised budget that the governor submitted a few days ago, you're requesting 752,000 approximately.
Yes,
The governor submitted a few days ago, an annual budget. This is including ARPA funds. That is $1 more than what you guys received in 2019. What the governor submitted is 561,284. That's inclusive of the ARPA funds. And you currently have a staff of 8, inclusive of admin
Yes.
staff, and are you, and you're trying to maintain that?
yes.
With-
With well, as I explained, with some salary increases and possibly a ninth FTE, ninth FTE if that
Mhm.
would be approved.
Okay. The governor's submission also zeroes out your recruitment and repatriation, just so you know. Overall, generally speaking, I'm in favor of increasing the budget for the PDO. I think we just had the Attorney General's office in here and they have a staff of 55. And I think it is disproportionate considering, what you do versus what the AG's office,
And-
does. So I'm in favor of increasing your FTEs, even in fact up to 15. I don't know how you guys have done a wonderful job maintaining with 8. And 4 of those are attorneys. That's quite difficult.
Thank you. And I would even concede that the Attorney General's office, given that the civil division is, there's the criminal and the civil. And so this, in the civil, I believe, is the bigger of the two. And so of course they should be more than twice what we are. maybe they should be 3 times what we are. So that's fine. We'll take 1/3. And I think that would be quite an increase
And the
for us.
PD only handles, of course, criminal.
Correct.
Okay.
Look,
Does anybody,
yeah, just because that includes juvenile and traffic and appeals and parole revocation.
what's the average caseload per attorney in your office?
I think it's, well, I think it's around 45 or 50, I'll say, skewed towards misdemeanors.
Yeah, because we have.
Is that right?
I'd say maybe a little bit higher.
Well, what's 1,300 divided by?
260. Maybe like 180.
That's not at a time though. That's so far in the year. So yeah, I'll stick with that estimate, I think.
I have no other questions at this time, Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Babauta. Floor is now open. Rep. Sablan, did you have something?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, Mr. Hardig and your staff. It's hard for me to see faces in the screen, but I guess I just wanted to better understand the discrepancies between the shortfalls that we have in our analysis versus what was mentioned. So, Mr. Hardig, what is the shortfall in operations between what was requested by the department and what the governor submitted, combined general fund and ARPA?
We requested 230, and I think that shorts us 135. Right.
Yes, you're close to 230 and what you're getting is.
And could you just give us a better understanding of how that affects your plans and operations for the office for the upcoming fiscal year?
Well, we'd have to in some ways cross the bridge when we come to it. We don't really have a goal of expanding or fixing much. We're trying to just maintain is kind of where we're at. So if we can just keep staff, keep paying our bills, keep doing what we're doing, is pretty much what we're looking for. There's things in the budget which would help us do things better if we could get some more training. I think that's in the budget. Some of the travel money would help towards our training and also towards better servicing clients on Tinian and Rhoda. We do a lot of that on phone, and sometimes in person would be better. So in that respect, as to Tinian and Rhoda, we're one could argue we're doing the minimum, which is not ideal. The lawyers are required by law, and not to mention it's just good practice to get continuing education. And so that's in the budget for at least one person. That'd be 1 out of 5 of us to get some off-island training. We don't have any aspirations of getting everyone off-island training, not in any given year. That's in there.
Okay, so could you also just touch on what your caseload is like for Tinian and Rhoda?
It's rather small. I personally don't handle either one of those dockets anymore. So a lot of that is done, like I said, telephonically. The traffic cases are very light, and recently it's been mostly, I believe, juvenile and misdemeanor.
Okay. Okay, so with the 135,000 that you requested and did not receive in the governor's budget, then you would have directed those resources towards more training, more in-person services for Tinian and Rhoda, continuing education, Anything else?
And just the basic upkeep of the office.
Just, yeah, basic fiscal upkeep, aircon repair, roof repair, that type of thing. General supplies, pens
Okay,
and
and I
papers.
actually, that was my next question. You are occupying still, pretty aged building,
Yeah.
right, in Mississippi?
Yes.
Have you requested any funds for, I guess, more extensive repairs and renovations? I mean, we are expecting a pretty massive windfall of federal money this year.
We requested to have the roof. We can repair it, and
Right.
it was denied.
We have requested funds for the roof repair. There's a couple spots that leak, usually only when it rains though, so that's a good thing.
Okay, and how much have you requested for that?
It was like
It was 7,000.
7,000, 7,000.
Okay.
I'm used to being questioned by judges. Oh, I'm sorry.
So will that be covered by
Pardon me?
this current budget? Will that be covered by this current budget, the repairs that you need for
Yes.
the buildings, the facilities?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Sablan. Just to recap and I guess get further clarification. I guess the numbers that we have prepared by our fiscal analyst does not jive with the numbers that you're presenting today. You indicated based on your analysis that your shortfall is around 135,000?
For operations, yes.
No, total?
A total would be about, yes, 190.
192. So under
Yes.
personnel alone, we, excluding the one additional FTE, our analysis is showing a deficit of 67,600. And then
That's-
for operations, there's a shortfall of 124,829.
I'm sorry, I didn't, for operations.
For
you had
operations, there's a shortfall of 124,829.
124, okay.
So the total, so 124,829 plus the,
The personnel, it could be, with the personnel, I think what I've done is had salaries only, and you may be referring to the other obligatory benefits like FICA and
right,
an estimate of the DC retirement plan
yes.
and I guess the life insurance.
Okay, so your initial request under operations alone is at 220,460, is that correct?
224.
No, I have it at 230.
Is this it?
So for operations, you requested 230.50.
We had it at 230.
Operation,
Didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had it at,
20.
how did
I
that,
think they're reading this.
where is this from?
See it?
Is that excluding the utilities?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes,
That's-
230 because we have it at.
We had it
With
at,
utilities.
yeah, in our 230, we're including
Yes,
utilities.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, makes sense. All right, well, at this time, I'd like to also recognize the presence of Representative Ed Probst, the chairman for gaming. With that, Any other members? Recognize Sheila Babalta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, and thank you for being here. This is a drastic reduction in your budget request. And so I'd just like to run through the areas where there has been a reduction or a zeroed out. And if you can just briefly help us understand how this will impact operations and with the PDO carrying out your mission. So my first question is in regards to your additional request for the FTE. At this time, according to your report online, citizen-centric report, you are not open during business hours at times. Is this still the case, and will the additional FTE allow your office to open or to be open during regular business hours?
That would be the goal and the hope. There are times that we do everything we can so that doesn't happen, but as I pointed out, there are times when that happens. There are times where Janelle, our office manager, has to run up to Capitol Hill and deliver documents, route documents, that type of thing. We may have Christy, our investigator, in court or out in the field doing investigation. And
I see.
the third personnel, support staff rather, might be ill or have to actually run documents to the court or the Department of Corrections or the Attorney General's office, and then we'd have to just close up for however long it takes one of them to finish up. So 20 minutes here, 10 minutes there.
I see. So it's not for long periods of time.
It's not for long
I see.
periods of
Oh,
times.
Okay, understood. Under advertising, you request 35,000, but you were granted 0. How will that impact? What is 35,000 used for advertising?
That would be for the recruiting.
Yeah, I think it was probably see. based on, it's recruiting.
Yeah.
Repatriation.
So that,
And, okay. I see. So to clarify, Mr. Chairman, that's the repatriation and recruitment? Okay. Okay. Understood. Dues and subscriptions, you requested 27,000, granted 7,000.
The one loan is 2,000 a month.
yes, that's the Thomson Reuters. That's the online research, which is over $2,000 a month. And then the smaller fees are the mandatory bar dues
And finance, right?
and the file and serve. Now, filing documents in court is all done electronically through a private company. So you're obligated to pay them their fees in order to file documents and receive filings from the court or from the Attorney General. So we're obligated to pay that so we can either file documents or get copies of documents that have been filed in cases that we're representing people on.
Okay. I mean, I think just a $20,000 shortage on your request would probably impact how many cases?
Every case.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have furniture and fixtures. You requested for 10,000, but given none, will that?
It's just for like file cabinets or upstairs.
We're still trying to store some paper documents, paper files going back several years. So we need filing cabinets to put those in. Currently, they're in cardboard boxes. That's not ideal.
Yeah. And any movement towards electronic storage, data?
We've got
We-
60%.
Yeah, we're about 60% scanned.
Okay. And any requests for supporting that effort here?
We're doing it
Under-
as we go.
Yes.
With the newer cases are all scanned and
I see.
electronically stored. The issue would be getting some of the older ones uploaded, and then we wouldn't have so much need for paper.
Okay. You also requested $10,000 for professional services, and that was zeroed out. How will that impact your operations?
Professional services were mostly like what we use Lori for.
Yeah.
We don't really use her anymore, unless you have anything.
Well, some of that would be for expert consultation, which a lot of that actually we can get from the court. We're using consultants a consultant as to software and uses of software,
Hmm.
which we've pretty much gotten rid of that. So that is depending on what we need to do as experts, that could be a minimal, honestly, impact.
Okay. One thing that stands out is hazardous compensation under personnel. The department requested 0, but you were granted 83,000.
83,000?
For what?
Hazardous
I don't.
compensation. Is that something that
I haven't seen that.
We haven't seen that.
I see? Okay.
It's probably driving on Middle Road is what that's for. No,
Okay. I think.
I really don't know. We haven't seen that.
Okay, that's just what's showing on our reports here when comparing the department's request, governor's proposal, and then the proposed ARPA.
The Flying Titanian, I'm not sure.
Okay, and then my last question is in regards to your statement about ending up like borrowing funds from SAA.
Yes.
Can you just expand on that? Did you have to do that last fiscal year? What was the process, and were you granted the entire amount that you requested?
The previous year, we didn't go through SA, we went through Code Enforcement. They actually gave
What
us,
agency?
planning division.
Was
It was in planning.
That was earlier this year, we went through SAA.
Yes, which is this.
Yeah, earlier this year, we did go through the SAA, which was, we got a total of 12,000. That was for our file and serve and the Thomson Reuters Westlaw and some of the
And for fuel.
fuel for the car and
And also the pay for-
trash pickup and some drinking water for the office.
Wow, okay. Sounds like just basic needs too, right?
Yeah,
Like
you never ask for anything more, we're just asking for.
for your
Yeah.
shoestring budget. Yeah.
They gave me 1,000.
And what was the process for requesting for additional funding from the SAA?
Maybe you could answer that.
So our office actually started fiscal year 2021 with 0 in operation. Of course, our vendors such as Thomson Reuters and File and Serve, these are off-island vendors. So with off-island vendors, it's much more harder for me to ask for an extension for our billing. They're not very lenient when it comes to it. And if we are delinquent about a month or 2, they will disconnect us. So I had to look for ways to make sure that our office could stay open and serve our clients. So we actually had a meeting with the budget and also grants office and also the SAA, and we were given $15,000 to pay for, these are just basic or essential billings that we have, such as IT&E, like Doug said, drinking water, fuel, and some of the vendors that the attorneys use for like File and Serve and Thomson Reuters. Yes.
So it's just a process of requesting for a meeting with OMB, the SAA, and then submitting.
Yes, we were already at the end where our vendors were threatening disconnection, and I didn't know what else to do. So Doug and I went up to Governor and just asked if maybe there was another agency that had some extra money who could help us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they were able to
They
grant
were.
you
Yes.
15,000, you said?
Yes. So altogether, they gave us $15,000. Yes.
Did they say where the funds came from? Was it from the CARES funding or?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure where the funding came from.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just curious with that process, but I commend you for
Yes.
seeking creative ways to
Yes.
meet your budget
Yes.
requirements. Thank you. I yield at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Babalta, for the first round. Any other member? All right, I recognize for the second round, Rep. Selena Babalta.
How has the governor's 100% reprogramming affected your office this fiscal year?
2021? Well, we fell short, and so had to, as Janelle explained, had to go try to find another 12.
Was there any employee furloughed?
No, no one, we did not have to furlough anybody.
Okay. Do you receive any funds from the local delegation?
No.
Okay. How this Westlaw subscription that for your online legal library? I understand the Attorney General's office has the same subscription, and I believe there's a new company that has taken over it, and it may be obsolete because of lack of technical support. But I was wondering, since you subscribe to it at a cost of over 2,000 a month, and the AG's office subscribes to it, and I'm not sure how it works, the subscription. Is there any way you guys can share?
I don't know that there is. There's a, they charge by office and by the number of users. So I don't know that that would really save anything. And then again, that becomes a budgeting issue as to how do we do that? Is that the AG's budget or is it our budget? And I don't know how that would split up. So I would be more than willing to, to share it with anybody if that was feasible. I just don't know because of the way that the billing works based on the numbers of people in the office that you're in. I don't know that can be done. I don't know that they would allow the combination of offices. And again, that would maybe solve part of the issue, but then the second part of the issue is the number of individual users. And so that wouldn't help out.
Understood. Okay, I yield.
Thank you, Rep. Abata. We'll take one more if there's any. All right, if there's none, so PD Hardick, what I gathered from today's hearing is to basically restore your initial request at 753, plus an additional 90K for the additional FTE you're requesting, so 843,465 would be something that would sufficiently allow your office to provide the services and to resume operations in a comfortable manner. Yes.
Yes.
All right. We will take that under advisement, and at this time, the committee appreciates your presence here today and to answer any questions that the members had. And so with that, at this time, would you like to provide any closing remark?
I would just say that either I've been awful at attending these or this is the first time I've been invited. So I certainly do appreciate the opportunity to come here. And I was shocked looking at the schedule that you allowed an hour, and almost as shocked that we've used it all up. But thank you.
All right. Thank you too, again. And should there be anything else that was missed in today's meeting, I would appreciate you providing the committee with any additional requests that was left out. We do anticipate on having a finished product within the next week or two. And so if anything comes up between now and then, please reach out. Yeah, and at this time, I would like to, Cancel. Go ahead, Rep.
Just a recommendation. You can also seek funding, like for Tinian and Rhoda, through the delegations, local delegations, and see if you can ask them for some funding there. That's an extra resource for you guys. Thank you.
Or get supported from Style. All right, thank you again, PD Hardick, and to your staff. All right, at this time, we will now excuse the PD and go for a short recess while we get our next invited agency. Short recess.
Thank you.
Thank you. budget hearing. Before we went on recess, we had just concluded the hearing with the Office of the Public Defender. And now before the committee, we have the Office of the Personnel Management. And at the request of the members, we invited the director to appear before the committee to answer any questions that the members have in regards to their submission, as well as what was proposed by the governor under the general fund and the American Rescue Plan Act. And so before I hand over the floor to the director for any opening statement, I just want to briefly go over our analysis, and maybe we can compare that to what you have on record. So it's broken down into the 3 senatorial districts. For Saipan, OPM is requesting for 515,498, but with the governor's proposal, it indicates an increase of 316,000. For second senatorial district, the request was for roughly 68,000. General fund and ARPA comes out to an increase of 8,000. And then for the first senatorial district, the total request was for 47,000. And there was an increase of 15,000. And so we just want to find out what OPM would have planned for those additional funds, and any additional requests that was left out of the original submission, if there's any. So we would like to hear from you, Director, and at this time, I hand the floor over to you.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everybody. Before I move on, I'd like to just introduce and mention that I have my chiefs with me, Chief Joe Pangilinan, Chief Joe Sabi De Leon Guerrero, and Chief Emma Peters, and our office manager, Miss Bernie Sablon. Thank you for having us here. I'm very happy to be here. I hope I'm able to answer all your questions and concerns. First of all, I am happy with our budget. Overall, Saipan had a slight increase of about $24,000. My concern, though, is we anticipate our rental to go up because our landlord proposed to raise it a few months ago, but because our lease had a provision of extending the current amount, we went ahead and took the extension. But come December, we anticipate about $1,000 increase per month. Again, it's just anticipated. So we may fall short on rental, but everything else seems to be it's workable. If I may, it's workable. We have in the past been able to cut a lot of expenses. For example, we returned a lease vehicle, therefore we don't have the gas expenses. We also cut some phone lines that are really not necessary. We're managing with 3 phone lines at the moment, and I believe that's fine. So we cut where we could to make ends meet, because of course with the COVID situation, we had to furlough, but we also recalled those furloughed employees, and thank goodness we didn't have to go through the RIF process. However, going back to the budget, I would like to ask, and I heard earlier in a previous hearing about the Saipan delegation and the other delegations, that if they were able to help us. So back in 2018, the Saipan Northern Island Mayors or Northern Island delegation assisted us with some training funds in the amount of about $25,000. And we used the money, and we set out to do what we intended, and that was to provide the necessary trainings or to continue the necessary trainings for Saipan, Tinian, and Rhoda, most especially for Tinian and Rhoda, just because we have to travel there. And that worked out well. So now that we're back to start doing trainings again, I'd like to continue that process and that and continue to educate our workforce on their rights, on their benefits, and so on. So with that being said, I'd like to go ahead and take any questions or concerns.
Thank you, Director, for your presentation. Now, you mentioned that your records indicate a $24,000 increase from your initial request.
Yes, from our first submission, budget submission.
Right, so
And that's for the 1026 account. So there's a reflection of about $24,000 increase in the governor's FY22 proposed budget for us.
so how much do you have listed as the department's request?
Total is 59.
No, for both operations and personnel?
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
59,000,
That's our
roughly
original.
59,000.
I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, your
Your
total
entire,
department.
oh.
Yeah.
Entire overall.
All these for Saipan, Tinian, and Rhoda.
The combination. Do the math.
832. They're getting a total of 832. For their, yeah.
Just a rough estimate.
So what we have under your department request, total operations and personnel came out to 515,000. Does that sound right?
Yes, for OPM alone.
Right.
I mean,
For
Saipan.
OPM
Saipan
Saipan.
alone, yeah.
Yes.
1026.
And
Okay.
what do you have listed as the combined ARPA and general fund?
This one is just,
Turn on your,
sorry.
push the button.
Yeah, this is just a local account prior to the ARPA account. This is our original submission for FY22. We had the personnel in 20 for 424, and for operations, we requested like 59,650 aside from CUC. So we had a total of 515.
Right. The governor, under the general fund for total for Saipan alone, general fund proposal is at 436,167.
Yes.
The ARPA is 396,263.
243, yes.
And so that computes a total of 832,430, which is about roughly 316,000 more than what the department had requested. Yes.
Okay. This one includes the ARPA with the 832,000. But our original submission is only based on 20%. 75%, 64 hours work week prior to the ARPA.
So the 20 FTEs, is that still how many you have on board right now?
Right now we're back to 18 with 2 vacant positions.
Okay, so to bring the 18 and to fill the 2 vacant positions, to bring the 18 back to 80 hours and to fill the 2 vacant positions, do you have that figure?
Yeah,
How much would that be?
the 832 that.
No, just for the 20% plus the 2
20%.
FTEs.
This one?
Can I get?
Oh.
What, 20% only for under ARPA? Oh,
Also, our submission was based, they told us to stay within the baseline of FY 2020,
2020.
2020. And also at that same time, we had, they, how would you say, funded 100% of the people that were furloughed. Those were not included in the original.
Yeah, regional
Right.
solution.
So everyone's back on board. We have about, I think actually 4 altogether, 4 vacant positions, 1 in Tinian and then the 3 in Saipan. And we intend to fill those.
Okay, so the additional 316 that was given through the ARPA will just cover the personnel shortfall, yes.
Yes.
So clarified, at this time, I'd like to open the floor to the members. I recognize Rep. Staffler.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you very much for coming in today. In reviewing the budget line items, I was curious if you intended to possibly include training or things like that, because it shows here as a 0.
Right. But with the additional funds that we were granted, we're going to move money around to ensure that we do that.
Awesome.
Also, just want to point out, I'm sorry, in the past, we've had to actually use resources, paper, but now we're doing away with that and just, everyone PowerPoint, email you the PowerPoint. So there's some cost elimination there.
I was going to ask about that because there was like 0 for
Yeah.
0 for copying.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess with respect to your FTEs, I was curious, right now, do you guys have any like pending disputes and things like that? Like, when like someone complains.
Grievances?
Yes.
Grievances?
Grievance, that's the word. Thank you.
We do have some, but they're in the early stages of being investigated. We had one just yesterday. But again, we would like to try to resolve those on a department level before, and if the employee is not satisfied, then they can move on to either EO or what have you. But
I guess my question is, what is about the turnaround time for addressing dispute or grievances?
we try to make it a point to get it done within 15 days. And plus, that's in the regs.
Nice, noted. So there's no like pending grievances for longer than a year or something like that?
Not with OPM.
Okay. So you would say you have enough staff to address those particular things in that 15-day window?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Sorry, Rep. Ben. Let me recognize first Rep. Sheila Vivalta.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Director, and your team for being here. Before I proceed, can you just briefly explain OPM and the Civil Service Commission and how the two relate? Who do you report to?
Yes.
And things like, just for our understanding and the
Yes,
general
absolutely.
public's understanding.
So the Office of Personnel Management falls under the Civil Service Commission. The commission is made up of about 7 commissioners with an executive director and an executive secretary. I report to the commissioners. There's a chairman, Mr. Jake Maritita, who chairs the commission now. Basically, I report to him. And the Civil Service Commission, I would say, is there to guide us, to ensure that our regulations are up to par. They are responsible also for making amendments, changes, modifications, when needed. And they also hear appeals. So that's why I say there are no pending issues with OPM because appeals and disputes go to the commission.
Okay. And you said there are 7 members?
Yes.
Is it a full board? Are there complete 7
I'm
members?
sorry, no, it's 6 right now.
6 right now.
Six.
So one vacant.
One's term has ended, yeah.
And the chairman is, who is the chairman you stated?
Mr. Jake Maritita.
Mr. Jake Maritita is the chairman right now. And all 7 members are appointed by the governor
Yes,
with the advice and consent of the Senate, correct?
yes.
Okay. So we don't have a full board. Okay, and they are appointed by the governor. So the vision for civil service, and I'm sure OPM too, is to ensure consistent employment laws, regulations, and that the merit system is free from coercion and political influence. And, you know, with Rep. Leila bringing up grievances, how do you ensure that happens at OPM? Because
Well,
we receive a lot of grievances. I mean, like, it also comes to our office, you know, our tables, our desks,
Yes.
and there's a lot of fear just surrounding the employment of our government, right? And a lot of fear for
Yes.
people to come out and
Yeah.
express their grievances. So
Absolutely. First of all, I think the important part is that they need to know their rights. Civil service employees, permanent employees, they need to know their rights. And civil service employees can only be removed for cause. Unlike contractual employees, there's provisions in their conditions of employment that state if the contract is ending early, there must be sufficient notice, which is 60 days. If the reason for removal is for cause, it's 7 days. So they need to know, they need to read the.
So is that the
their
training that
condition.
you're talking
Yes,
about when you go
yes,
around and train?
Yes,
I see.
you know.
It's for all the other departments and agencies, not training for your staff.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
I see. But there's also a funding request for training for your staff as well. Yes,
That would be
let me
nice.
see.
But
Okay,
But I think our job
there's
needs to continue. There's no just one day we'll do training on your rights and that's it. There has to be continuous
right.
training because there's turnover.
I
You know,
agree.
people leave, people come back.
I agree. And you said that there are civil service positions and then there are accepted service
Yes.
employees, right? And so at this time, we have, well, in 2020, there was 700 civil service employees and 1,400, a little over 1,400 of the accepted service. Can you just help us understand the difference between these two positions and why there's almost double the amount of accepted service employees?
Funny you should ask. I did some calculating before I came. And to my count, right now, I believe there are roughly about 400 contractual employees right now.
Okay.
Now, I'm only counting the departments that we service. Okay, I don't count, for example, Casino Commission, CPA, and what have you. There are certain offices that we service, and those are the numbers that, I have here. But we're not done with the rest of the fiscal year, so I may have, not counted everyone. But I believe the numbers have dropped as far as the contractual, and we're gonna probably see a spike in civil service positions just because departments are, able to hire now. I know Chief Joe Pangilinan has been busy with examination announcements, and we have openings for civil service positions at the moment. So we're going to see a spike in an increase in civil service positions being filled. Yeah.
Okay. Can you expand on the agencies that you do service and you
Okay.
don't service? Is there a...
Okay. So, of course, the executive branch, DPW, DCCA, DLNR, Public Defender's Office, civil.
So every department under the executive branch?
Every department under the executive branch. Casino Commission, for example, was under our purview, but they've, how would you say, released themselves of, they process their own documents now. So that was about 40 plus employees, I think, with Casino. So, yeah, our numbers have dropped a little bit, but pretty much, I think it was only Casino Commission. We service the BECQ. Boy, who else? DFEMS, DPS, corrections, labor, commerce. Pretty much under everyone under the executive branch.
Okay.
So, just
Thank
to
you.
give an
That just
idea.
helps, I
Yeah.
think, gives us all an idea of your workload,
Mhm.
like the kind of department that OPM is.
Mhm,
You're
mhm,
our HR department of the
Mhm.
government,
mhm.
right? And so, okay, so pretty much every department in the executive branch, you also help process
The legislature?
legislature and the judicial branch?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And you did mention that your rental amount will increase?
We anticipate it to
anticipate,
go
or
up, yeah.
What is
we-
the amount, the total amount? You requested for 48,000 for the year.
Yeah. It's based on the 4,000 monthly.
Okay. Is that the
Um,
anticipated increase?
No, we anticipate it to go up to about $1,000 more, so about 60,000. Hoping
Okay.
it's not gonna be increased, but we anticipate it to go up.
And can you talk to us about your infrastructure? So you're located on Middle Road.
We are currently renting a space at Springs Plaza.
Mhm.
Personally,
Only
I
one
think
location. This
only
rent
one
is for-
location, yes, for the Saipan office.
Okay.
Tinian, we pay rent.
Yeah.
We do pay rent $400 a month, and with Rhoda, we don't pay rent at the moment. Thank you to the mayor of Rhoda who has housed our 2 staff there, which seems to be working out well because all the other departments are located in the same building, so
Okay.
they won't have to go far to process.
But you rent on Tinian?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Okay. I'm just being mindful of time, Mr. Chairman. I will yield. I know Rep. Camacho had some questions.
Thank you, Rep. Camacho. I recognize Rep. Camacho.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome. Very quick and very simple. Does OPM provide ethics training to government employees?
Ethics training is conducted by the Office of the Public Auditor.
Okay. How about EEO training?
Yes, we do.
And you provide that to all the government employees?
Everyone, yes.
How about little stuff like customer service? Do you guys do any of that?
Yes, we do.
Like
Telephone etiquette.
eating while you're
yeah.
talking to customers or clients?
What was that?
Eating?
Eating?
Mhm.
Oh, my goodness.
So I guess we need to
We need
do
to
more on that.
Pump up, yeah. Noted.
Yeah, I think that should be a regular refresher training. And I think the issue we have a lot with customer service around here is nobody's really enforcing that,
Hmm,
right?
Okay.
I mean, just about everywhere you go, it's kind of like that. Hello,
Yes,
yeah,
Mm.
and that's very annoying.
I would agree.
But other than that, that was really kind of my big concern. How about authority? Do they even understand authority?
I would say that would fall under supervisory training.
That should be a good training for everybody because,
Yeah.
I don't want to walk into an office and have to address who I am in order to get service ahead of everybody. That shouldn't work like that, right?
Mhm.
Everybody stands in line, wait their turn, but they need to be able to figure that one out too.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those are just some of the things I have been looking at, been seeing a lot. I've been here quite a while now, and yeah, the service is just kind of like that. They don't pay any attention really. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Noted, sir.
Yeah. So That's all I have to say. Thank you. Are you?
Thank you, Rep. Ben. Up next, we have Rep. Lizama.
Thank you, Chairman, and welcome, Fanny. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
But I have a question. Is DPS, of course, falls under the executive branch.
Mhm.
Who dictates their drug test? Is that just come from the chief of the commission or the commissioner, or can you set up a program and say, my friend, your turn,
Yes.
and you bring the result in? Is
Okay.
anyone doing that at this moment?
Okay, I would like to explain. So there is a law, Public Law 1847. It's called the Mandatory Drug Testing Law for Law Enforcement. I have asked the Senate to look into making that a zero tolerance law, because right now it's not. So yes, there is a mandatory drug testing for law enforcement specifically, and not just DPS, corrections, fire, but also to include ABTC, conservation officers, any law enforcement, the marshals at the judiciary, and so on. Then there's also something called random drug testing, which is administered by our office. Random, we administer, how would you say? I would say 20, the regulation states we can test 25% of the department at one time. For example, could be yearly, could be every quarter, or so on. Of course, it's random. Then there's reasonable suspicion. We also go through a lot of that. Then the mandatory. Now, prior to becoming a chief and then the director, I was the alcohol and drug-free workplace person. And it's so critical that we continue to enforce this or administer this testing, because let's just face it, we have employees who come to work high. And that's why I can't really understand why the Senate would like to remove marijuana from the testing list. I mean, that's their proposal. And I'm just being open and honest. They asked me to comment, I commented, and I don't agree. Absolutely not. But we'll see what happens. I don't understand the reason. I don't. Yes, cannabis and marijuana is legal now, but you can't be a government employee in a safety sensitive position and be on drugs. You just can't. Also, my argument was that it's still an illegal substance on the federal level. So our regulations are mirrored after the federal regs and laws. So again, I don't understand the logic. And then lastly, the CNMI is a recipient of so many federal monies, grants. And in those grant agreements, it's very clear that you have to maintain an alcohol and drug-free workplace policy. So my argument was that, so you want to jeopardize the millions of dollars that we get. I just don't understand. So with that being said, I hope you guys can shed some light on, because I'll be honest, we do have people that come to work, not just high, but intoxicated. But we have programs in place, we have regulations in place that address these issues. And again, when it comes to the mandatory drug testing law, I would like to see it be a zero tolerance law, because right now it's not. And I have had discussions with many stakeholders in the government, from the AG's office, from everyone. And we have determined through the AG's office that it's not a zero tolerance law. So.
Thank you for that information, but just one question.
Yes.
And just need clarification. From January to this point, have you done any of those?
Yes, we have. We have pretty much done all law enforcement. We just finished fire. We did DPS earlier this year. I think we did corrections
Okay, so
Yes.
it's been ongoing.
Yes, it's been ongoing.
And because of that, you need money. And of course, I hope that you ask for that.
Good point. Lately, the departments have been forking out that cost, but we do have some money set aside for that. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairman. I give back.
Thank you, Rep. Lizama. Now, just to clarify, so these drug tests are initiated by the department head?
Depending on the type, it's initiated by us. Actually, we're the administrators.
But
So with
you
the
charge the department?
Yes.
Has that always been the case?
No. It's just when we fell into austerity, funding was not available. We would tap the departments, especially the law enforcement, the safety sensitive departments, to see if they had the funding. So 99% of the time they are able to help us or able to fork out the cost for these tests.
So you would administer the test randomly and then charge them later on?
Yes.
How much would you say in a year
Yearly.
would be spent on drug testing?
About $15,000, $15 to $20,000.
But these are for
Safety sensitive employees.
right. Do you also provide or do drug testing on non-safety sensitive employees?
No, we're not able to. Our regulations are clear that they have to be deemed safety sensitive or designated safety sensitive, but don't be misled because a person who drives a vehicle is designated as safety sensitive. So you may think that maybe an administrative officer who uses the government vehicle is not safety sensitive, but we deem them safety sensitive just because of the mere fact that they are using a government vehicle, authorized to drive a government vehicle.
So like quota drivers?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I'm sorry, but CODA actually takes it a step further and they do their own. They've contracted their own separate, just because of the grant issue, just because of the federal, and because of the mere fact of the scope of the work.
Thank you. So clarified. At this time,
If you don't mind, Chairman,
can we save it for, sorry.
just to follow.
You
the
already,
question.
okay, go ahead.
So the school district, the bus drivers, there, when I was in the state, and I was driving, we were randomly. So is that how it's done, Hector?
I can't say for sure because we don't service PSS. Yeah, sorry.
All right, at this time, I would like to recognize Rep. Selena Vivalta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When was the last time OPM conducted any training, their protection for civil service employees? When was the last time
Wow.
OPM
We
conducted?
We did some early this year. As a matter of fact, I was the trainer. Yeah, we did some
Which
earlier
department was that?
Actually, we solicit, how would you say, from various departments to get a bit better pool of their administrative staff who are, for example, when you say EO, we have EO coordinators and we have EO counselors. So that on a yearly basis, we kind of pull them in to remind them of their responsibilities. We had one earlier this year.
Okay, because we're getting a lot of reports from DPS in particular nowadays. I'd like to ask you guys to please focus on DPS. If you're going to conduct these trainings, try to make it focused at least on one department who has been experiencing a lot of these retaliations on civil service employees. I don't know if they report, give you guys any report, but we hear a lot of it here. The other thing, these know your rights trainings is, I think, what they need.
Okay.
You said you expect a spike in civil service because departments are now able to hire. Is it also because the executive branch is transitioning their accepted service employees into civil service positions?
I'm not aware of any transition because you just you can't just automatically transition. The person must qualify.
Yes.
So,
Are you seeing any right now that, who are accepted service
It's-
employees and then they apply for
yeah, it's
these?
interesting that they would leave a accepted service position at a higher salary to go into it's possible. I'm sure it happens, but off the
It
top
happens
of my
every
head,
administration.
yeah,
For the protection of their
yeah.
employees. Anyways, you said CCC now processes their own personnel action. Was that by statute, done by statute? Why would it suddenly, I don't know that they have the unilateral authority to do that.
Yeah. Quite honestly, I don't recall. It was about a couple years ago. Yeah. Oh, through public law.
Through public
actually,
law,
yeah.
okay.
Okay. through
Okay, I
public
was
law.
just wondering about that.
Okay. Yeah.
You mentioned about the current or the public law 18-47, the mandatory drug testing for law enforcement. What is the argument they're saying that it is not a zero tolerance law?
Yeah. In the body of the law, it mentions about zero tolerance, but when you look at the specifics and any penalties or what have you, it's not zero tolerance. It refers back to the original or the regular alcohol and drug-free workplace policy, where in that policy it gives you serious offense,
I understand now.
Yeah, but again, specifically for law enforcement is where I have a problem where.
I think maybe the logic in the current proposed bill from the Senate, and I can't speak for them certainly, but I've heard the argument that cannabis, because it's legalized now here, they treat it as alcohol, like
Right.
it's no big thing. But I know, alcohol may be legal, alcohol consumption and cannabis consumption may be legal, but certainly we can't expect our government employees to come into office and be high or drunk. So
Exactly.
you may want to use that argument.
Yeah,
It's your right to smoke, but it's not your right to be drunk and
Yeah.
high
Right.
in a workplace.
I mean, they've even, brought to my attention, oh, so why don't we test for alcohol? I'm like, we can.
What is OPM's procedure when you guys administer these drug tests and somebody turns out positive? What's the procedure? And what kind of drugs do you guys test for?
Okay, so we test for marijuana, cocaine, phencyclidine, methamphetamines, and amphetamines. So these, we call them the NIDA-5. And these NIDA-5 drugs are what is being tested on the federal level. So again, our regulations are mirrored after the federal regulations from the U.S. Department of Transportation. So until such time marijuana is removed from that federal level, then maybe okay. But right now, because of the mere fact that maybe 90% of our offices, our departments receive federal monies, and are we willing to jeopardize those funds? I don't think so. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars. And just the mere fact that you will have people working, I mean, they'll be unproductive. Why would we want to pay unproductive employees? So.
Couple more questions. You said how many staff are in Rhoda? OPM staff?
Two
And
and
two in Rhoda and one in
Tinian
Tinian?
right now, but
But-
we have a position available
A
because
vacancy in
Yeah.
Tinian.
2 of our senior staff there both retired almost at the same time.
Are they, what I've come to know, are they MOUs from the mayors?
No. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah, we have transitioned her or that employee. She applied just like a regular employee or a regular applicant. She made the list. She had to qualify. that's how we were able to put her on a civil service position.
How many MOUs do you have from the municipalities?
I don't have any.
None. Okay, thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Rep. Babalta. For the first round, Rep. Sablan, do you have anything?
Yes. Okay. Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay, and good afternoon, Ms. Salas, and to your team from OPM. I have a few questions. One, I wanted to ask, what role does OPM play in facilitating the transfers of employees when executive orders are issued and offices get merged? And so I'm thinking specifically about customs and quarantine most recently, and also medical referral. There are some civil service staff in both those offices. How do you help those employees?
Okay, our role is to ensure that the transfer is properly done. First of all, there has to be paperwork to effectuate such. And yes, I believe customs and quarantine has merged. So therefore we are, they should be processing those, I would say, yeah, transfers and then change of accounts, details. And if there needs to be some adjustment to position title, then that's something that OPM is responsible for as well. And ensure that, their roles, first of all, you can't, just because a transfer is happening, there should be no demotion, no change in salary, no change in position, unless the position requires some additional, I would say, duties and responsibilities. But yes, there is, OPM does play a role in to effectuate that transfer. And to make sure, I guess, it's
Okay.
done properly, yeah.
Okay, and have you had any issues with
Not
that
yet,
process?
not
Do you have
yet.
the capacity to ensure
Yeah.
that these transfers are done
Mhm.
properly?
Yes.
Sorry, should I repeat myself?
Oh, yes, sorry, didn't hear you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just asked if there were any issues with that you've seen with that process, and if you have the capacity to ensure that these transfers are done properly.
Oh, yes, we do have the capacity. We're at a full staff. So,
Okay.
yes, we will ensure that that happens. I'm sure it's not going to be 100% done smoothly. I know there will be some hiccups, but we'll get through them. I don't think they're going to be major obstacles.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one question I had was, you were talking earlier about the role that OPM plays in resolving grievances, and I wanted to ask if OPM recognizes transfers within departments as a form of retaliation or harassment, and a basis for a grievance.
Wow. Okay. So I can't recall the actual provision in the regulations, but there is a provision in the civil service regulations that allows transfers, allows the expenditure authority to move people where they're needed. And if that will happen, that also has to come through OPM. There has to be proper documentation for that. But I'm not gonna lie. I'm sure there are some departments that do that without our knowledge. But again, we're trying, and I found one just a couple months ago. So we're trying to get them back on track. I guess an employee was having some issues, actually more health issues, and was moved. And we're trying to get them back on track to put them back where they belong, to earn the salary that they are applied for. So yeah, I think it does happen, but it's not, I'm not aware that it's rampant. But
Okay.
yeah.
But I guess what I'm asking is maybe more specifically, does OPM recognize unwanted transfers? Like if an employee perceives a transfer as being a form of retaliation for any reason, is that the basis? Does that form the basis for a grievance that you would investigate?
Yes, yes, we would investigate that.
Okay.
And
thank
we've
you.
had some in the past,
and
which
then-
we did.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think some of my colleagues and I have also received complaints about that as well, particularly with DPS. So my next question has to do with corrections. So there is a bill that's currently pending in committee that proposes immediate termination for corrections officers that are found to have promoted contraband items into the prison facility. And I wanted to ask if there will be any concerns, any position that OPM would take on that part of the bill.
Okay. I must say that corrections, DPS, and I believe fire, they also have their standard procedures, standard operating procedures, and actually I think it's called maybe code of conduct. And corrections, for example, I know that within those standard operating procedures, the contraband part is a violation, a big violation. Whereas in our regulations, it doesn't specifically say that. But we would also look at our regulations to ensure that, well, is there proof of that? You know, we have to make sure we cover our butts to ensure that, you know, there's nothing that will come back, you know, and bite us in the butt later where, you know, because we're moving someone for cause. That's the only way a civil service employee can be removed is for cause. So therefore, we have to ensure that there is sufficient evidence and merit to such termination or suspension or whatever adverse action they plan to take on the employee.
Okay,
So,
so there
and-
is a possibility
Yes.
that you may have to update
Yeah.
your regulations
Yes,
if this is enacted.
yes, and also,
And then when you were talking about changing the law for zero tolerance, were you specifically only referring to law enforcement or any government employee that isn't a safety sensitive?
specifically for that Public Law 1847, specifically for that law, just to insert something in there that says it's zero tolerance.
Okay,
Also, one thing, I'm
thank
sorry.
you.
Oh, okay.
sure, go ahead.
Oh, just wanted to say, going back to adverse actions and suspensions, terminations, also what I would like to let everyone know is that when we do, how would you say, when the department initiates an adverse action for whether it be suspension or termination, that document still needs to get reviewed by the Attorney General's office as well. So that we're all in line, so that there are, you know, they review that. I review it for the regulations, and then they review it for legal sufficiency.
Okay, thank you. And I guess my next question, has to do with WGI implementation. What role are you playing in
Oh,
that
boy.
process, and how is
We
that going?
have a very big role. Right now, we are inundated with, you know, processing of WGIs. And I don't say it, you know, I say it with happiness and being happy, because these deserving employees are now getting their raise. It's just been too long. And plus, you know, and we understand we were in an austerity situation. And I'm just happy. I mean, you can throw all the WGIs you want at us, and we will process them. As a matter of fact, we have processed and gotten out at least over 1,000 right now, to be honest with you, because I asked Sabby to
Okay.
get that figure for me. But Saipantinian
Over
and Rhoda,
1,000 employees have received WGIs.
we are processing them at the moment. But I'm
That
happy. Throw them to me. Throw them at us. I mean, we are happy to process this.
So how many more do you have to go?
Wow. Maybe another 1,000. maybe another 1,000. I mean, because we're going back to 2018. That's when austerity kicked in. So whoever did not get a raise, we want to make sure that they are afforded that increase going back then. But also, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. It's not financially, how would you say? We're just placing them at the correct pay level and step. We're not going all the way back and retroactively paying them because we won't have enough money. But at least they're getting that bump up that they will deserve. And I'm talking everyone. I mean, from first responders to just everybody that didn't get one. So I'm so happy you asked me that. I was hoping someone asked me
I think
that.
we're all really glad to hear that. But so you said you're going back to 2018, but this is not retroactive?
No.
Sorry, could you explain that?
No. Okay. So because of that time, we were all on austerity. So austerity was lifted on March 29, 2021. So if someone was owed a two-step increase, we're going to place them at that correct pay level effective the day austerity was lifted. So they'll get a slight retro, but not as significant as you think. Right?
Okay, so they're getting the step increases that they would have
Yes.
received had austerity not been implemented,
Yes.
but it's going forward
Yes.
from when austerity was lifted.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, and I guess my final question, last we spoke on this issue was over a year ago before COVID, and I know OPM and the Civil Service Commission were looking at updates to the government's leave policy, and that it was pending with the Attorney General's office.
Oh.
What's going on with that?
Was it the sick leave? Was it sick leave?
Yeah, sick leave. We were talking about paid family leave,
Yeah.
updates to the sick leave policy, and it was still under review,
Yeah.
right, at the AG's office.
So unfortunately, that did not go through. So it did not go through because I believe that the AG pointed out that currently there is law that addresses, it's called family sick leave. And so, yeah, bottom line, it didn't pass the AG's office.
Family sick leave is
Yes,
already
there's a
in
current,
the
there's a
American
current
law.
law that's, it's family sick leave where it allows a government employee to use their accrued sick leave to care for a family member.
Okay.
Yeah, we were hoping
Okay.
with that amendment that we would be able to allow family members to tap into the sick leave bank to care for the family member, but that didn't happen.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So is legislation needed then to make the improvements that your office was proposing?
Probably, but
Okay.
again,
We can discuss
could
this.
we, I think we need to look at the family sick leave law, because that's in place right now. So,
Yeah. And are there other types of benefits that are under review right now or that you would suggest legislative action on?
thank you for asking that. How about common law? Common law, benefits for common law. That's often a big issue, a big question, a big request. And, the only thing we can possibly say is that, and quote, tell me if I'm wrong, but the CNMI doesn't recognize common law. So therefore, we can't incorporate that into our regs. So
Okay.
thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I would love to chat with you more after this. And with that, I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Sablan. And just to clarify, or I guess get more information on the WGI issue that Rep. Sablan brought up. So you mentioned that you process about 1,000 WGIs. So are they, I guess, are they being compensated as you process them, or
Yes.
are you waiting to process everything before
No,
they get compensated?
as they come in, we try to get them in the system as soon as we can to get them to so that they realize that
Yeah,
increase.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess some are
some-
asking, why did one person get it and I didn't get
Yeah.
it? And so it's
Yeah.
just a matter of processing
Yeah.
them as they come.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
We've, when I say process, we've actually sent out actually it's 1,500 some. So we're slowly getting them back and we're processing them as far as entering, but
All right, I
you
get it.
know, yeah.
Thank you. I think, Ben, do you have, so for the round two, Ben, did you have? All right, any other members for round two? All right, so in closing, I just wanted to ask just maybe one or two more questions. Does OPM have a database where people can go and access, or I guess search up personnel and, where are they employed? And because I know Gov Guam, at least, they have an online database where you can go in and see where an individual is working, how much they're getting paid. Does the cinema have one?
No, not that where the public is, has that access.
But anyone can come to OPM and request? If I were to,
Probably if they, through the Open Government Act.
I
but
mean,
not to
it's
just
already
pop
public
up and-
in regards to the budget. I mean, when they pull out the budget, all personnel are listed,
Mhm.
how much you're getting paid. But sometimes these contractual services, these employees that are on contracts, they're not public records, or I don't know where you would be able to find that. But is that something that? So is
Right
there
now-
any? Do you know if there's any law that prohibits you from publishing those information? And if not, is there some way that OPM can set up a database similar to Gov Guam, if that's something that?
Well, something that just would pop up would be, some of the information would be confidential. So for us to just give out information to anybody, I don't think is proper. I would need to get their authorization to release.
Well, not only the sense of what the individual's name, their pay scale, and what department they're going through, or what department they're assigned.
Mm.
Not
I-
anything past that.
I mean, I'll gladly provide that information if they would, use the Open Government Act, but not just anyone off the street to come in and say, I want to know where so-and-so works. No.
But
I
there's
don't have
no
that
legal
data available.
Okay. Well, I'm just
That's a good question.
Yeah, because if anyone were to go to Google Guam database, you can find any employee who's employed under Gov Guam, find out how much they make and where. And I just think this is something that the cinema can also look into and possibly benefit from, maybe. And so, like I said, it's already made public through the budget that we receive for at least civil service for the most part. Anyone has access to that, but when they question other employees, or all these contracts, it's being paid for by public funds. Therefore, people have the right maybe to find out if where they're being employed and all of that. Because I do get a lot of calls regarding, I think it's more of a OPA issue also, where they make complaints on why one individual is getting paid to go
Yeah.
out or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I wouldn't really know where that individual works,
Right.
who that person works for,
Yeah.
so on and so forth.
Perhaps I'll bring it up to the Civil Service Commission and see what they say about it, what their thoughts are on it.
Okay, that was just maybe something that OPM can look into, and that's something that we as the members of this committee can consider and do some sort of legislation to assist in that request. And so with that, members, if there's no other question, at this time, the committee would like to thank you, Director, and your staff for coming in today on such a short notice, but you have been making yourself available in prior scheduled meetings. Unfortunately, other meetings came up. But thank you for coming in and shedding light on a couple of concerns and questions that the members have. And should there be any additional concerns that weren't brought up here, we'll be sure to forward that to you.
Thank you.
And so before we adjourn, I'd like to offer the floor to you if you have anything you'd like to close with.
Just a follow-up comment to Rep. Selena Babauta. Going back to the EO and discrimination training, we just had one yesterday with fire. So we will continue that outreach. We will continue that, public education. So, yeah, thank you for having us. Truly appreciate.
All right, thank
the
you again,
questions.
Director, and to your staff for coming in today.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Members, at this time, we will go ahead and allow OPM to dismiss, or if you want to stay for any public comments, you're more than welcome to. But we're going to just discuss a couple of committee stuff before we adjourn. Thank you again. All right, members. So that concludes our 2-month-long budget hearings. You want more? Any other agencies that we missed? All right, members. So as this information was shared with you the last time, in regards to DPS, at this time, we will forego any hearings. Unfortunately, the commissioner did provide the committee his medical leave and had authorized a certain individual to answer any questions that committee may have. So at this time, I would advise you to go off of their initial testimony. If there are any questions that wasn't answered or that you would like to get more info on, please, I can give you the person to direct your questions to, or you can all forward it to me and I'll forward it to the commissioner or his designee to answer any of the questions that you have. In the meantime, we will look at the DPS's budget based on what was presented. And we can discuss more on that during our deliberations. So again, as was discussed in our session yesterday, for Monday, I am looking at around maybe 1 p.m. to brief the members on how we are going to proceed with the budget deliberation. At this time, our fiscal analyst is reviewing the revised budget that was submitted on Friday. And so I also ask you members to take a look at the file I sent you regarding the revision on volume 1 and 4. There are some concerns that preliminary analysis shows that it's something that we should look at and further investigate. I will not disclose it now as it's not 100% accurate, but based on the few days that certain individuals were able to look at it, it may be of grave concern. But we'll discuss that as soon as TG has completed his analysis. And so with that, again, our schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On Friday, should we need additional time, then We'll cross the bridge when we get there. But at this time, for Monday, just be prepared to for a short presentation or orientation, if you will, to have you start looking into what ways or how we want to approach the budget. I've asked TG to start off with extracting all vacancies from all divisions. And then as we go through each agency, we can put in the FTEs in which the departments have requested for. And in addition to that, any over and underfunded agencies, that way we can move funds from these overfunded agencies into agencies that were underfunded. So those are the two main tasks TG will be working on, and hopefully he will have something by Wednesday. But come Monday, we will find out where he's at with the analysis. And so I do not want to schedule any more meetings to allow TG the time to review the initial submission as well as the revised budget submission. And so at this time, members, do you have any questions for TG or any recommendations that you would like for him to look at while he analyzes the revised budget? Yes, I recognize Rep. Selena.
I have a question. There's an administrative message in the current revised. Is it in the revised? Hang on. No, I'm sorry, it's not in the. Give me a few seconds. Well, actually, it's in the revised and the. It's not in the revised, I'm sorry. It was in the original budget message. The no vacant positions are funded in the general fund. This is with the 96 million submission.
This is prior to the passage of ARPA,
Yes.
right? No. It was.
The one that was submitted on April 1st.
No
There-
open vacancy. Yes, but the governor had rescinded
He rescinded this message because of the
he
ARPA,
rescinded
right?
the hiring. And
I was just concerned that when the fiscal analyst does his analysis of the vacant positions that you're asking him to extract, right? If there is a funding level on that position, can we have a tally of that so that way we know? Yeah, yeah. Yes,
yeah, so far all the vacant positions were zero
zero
funded.
funded, okay. That's what I wanted to know.
But this is something that even OMB had shared as what's going to happen when the money runs dry or when the ARPA ends. And so we just want to be careful in how much FTEs we're giving these agencies aside from what they currently have. And so any new positions or any positions that became vacant during this austerity period, we want to give it back to the agency based on their need and based on what they've testified in front of the committee. So currently, none of the vacancies were funded, but they were included in the proposal.
Okay, so let me understand this. If there are any vacancies in the revised budget, we're gonna eliminate all of that for now, as we are looking at the budget submission, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But the vacancies were zero funded general fund, but were funded ARPA. Right. So it was covered through ARPA, but and so yeah, we're just gonna start by going through each agency to put back these vacancies that were extracted out. If that makes sense.
It does, but I'm concerned that a lot of positions are being funded through indirect costs of grants and
But that will be up to the,
sure, but if we control the number of FTEs.
those will be limited term FTEs, which, would
is-
fall on the agency or the governor's office or the municipalities.
Understood. Understood.
All right, any other questions from the members before we adjourn? I recognize,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question. Once we start, deliberating on the budget, are we going to go through like line item amounts that were discussed during the
so we're gonna
past
look at it
budget
as a summary of personnel and operations and utilities. Yeah, because basically any line item for each category that should have been addressed in these hearings, but
Mhm.
none of them kind of requested, let's put 5,000 from travel into.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if we pass it as all others, so basically that'll give the agency the flexibility to pay for. Rep Sablon, did you have something?
Yeah, I do have a question. I didn't hear all of what you said were going to be our fiscal analyst's two main tasks. So I got the over and underfunding, but what was the first one?
The first one was to extract all vacant positions, and then we're gonna go through each agency and put back the ones that had requested to keep them or add more.
Yeah. Well, and then one other, so on that subject then, like one other proposal that we had discussed during this whole process was like taking the MOUs from the mayor's offices that are being given to different departments and looking at the department's request for FTEs, for additional FTEs and like just kind of reaching some kind of balance that way. So I wanted to ask if that could also be part of his review as we're extracting vacant FTEs and looking at FTEs for the mayor's offices and the departments. And I think that's it.
There's only 25 MOUs on TM. There's over 200 in Rota.
Wow, okay. Yeah, and then as we were hearing from the different departments, like a number of them had requests for additional FTEs, right? Like they were understaffed and relying on MOUs to supplement their staffing. So, I still don't understand why we don't just give the department the FTEs, and maybe that could be something that we consider in this budget. Thank you.
If we pick up the FTEs from the mayor's office, assign them, you're just gonna hire more MOU under ARPA, and that'll just continue to blow maybe not this fiscal year. You guys can understand.
Well, wouldn't we eliminate FTE, cut the number of FTEs for the mayor's office? Couldn't we do that?
Well, the thing with the mayor's office or any municipality is that these he could fund them through the ARPA, so it's just adding more FTEs and because they're limited term contracts, even if we restrict
So he
them
could
to
still hire, the department heads and mayors could still hire limited term employees,
through
even if
ARPA.
we set a cap on their FTEs.
It's not restricted. It's only one month.
Yes, right, Joe.
Yeah, I think FTEs is full-time equivalent. So we want to use number of positions. NOPs.
Yeah, NOPs.
NOPs was switched because there was that artful transition from FTEs, which is what you're saying. You mean NOPs, right? With all due respect.
Yes, I mean NOPs.
Okay, so when you mean NOPs, then I would disagree with the chairman. The NOPs is strictly a number of positions. But when you're talking about FTEs, then he's right. They can do the limited term employment. So if we're using the term of arts precisely, we want to stick with the NOPs to restrict the over hiring that you're concerned about.
Right, okay, then yeah, that is what I'm suggesting.
With that restriction
Thank you.
from using outside source, does the NOPs?
I would say yes, it would restrict. If the number of positions is restricted, then it doesn't matter if there's an abundance of funding. The number of positions are capped.
OPM's rules are that 90 days or somewhere. 90 days to hire, otherwise
It's 180.
But we are in uncharted territory with respect to the.
Yeah. Well, one of the, and we can discuss more of this in our next meeting, but one of the concern I have is we're going to bloat again the agencies by transferring these limited term into civil service, but the mayor has the authority to identify, at least during his term, how he can support the agencies, at least for the period of his term. After that, the next mayor or whoever that may be can decide if should they, whether these agencies would need the additional employees. So even, you know what I mean? And so we're trying to reduce the size, but by transitioning these FTEs into the departments, we're kind of increasing the size again. So the flexibility of these limited term employees is that they're only there for the term of the mayor or the governor or whoever the hiring authority is. But again, we'll try to, from my understanding, TG had mentioned that only Tinian had provided the number of MOUs. I will try to reach out to the mayor of Rhoda or his designee to see how many in total Rhoda has. I don't think there are any on Saipan, no. And so we'll go ahead and thank you, Rep. Sablan. We'll go ahead and have TG extract those information as well, and that's something that we can again come back and talk about.
What's your take on that? Can you hire unlimited LTEs if you have the budget for it, even though you're capped?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. It's been done every administration.
Okay, to the general. Okay, all right, thank you, members. Anyone else? Sorry, we have to go back on the agenda. We had public comments. Anyone from the public? I see there's none. All right, so again, Monday we will meet at 1. We'll schedule it for 1 p.m. I understand NR has a committee meeting in the morning. Is that correct? It's still on schedule. So NR at 10 a.m. And then 1 p.m. we'll have our Ways and Means. It will be more of an orientation, and TG can present whatever information he has, and we'll get a better understanding of how far along TG is on his analysis with the revised budget. All right, any other announcements? If not, can I get a motion for adjournment? Motion was made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned 3:26 p.m.